Welcome back to part three of this. This is Jeannie LeMay Dumas giving an interview with an unknown interviewer. Um, that is pretty cool, And this is part three of it. This is the final part, so hopefully you make it to the very end on this. This is the friend of Linda Thompson that was there when Linda met Elvis. This was also Elvis's secretary for a while. And she took the photos that we now have, the knowledge of what Elvis's bedroom looked like. And, of course, part of the bathroom. And I know that she's been given a hard time by some people about those photos that are in her book. And we've been reading the book, the Jeannie, Linda, and Elvis book or something like that. I think that's what it's called. And it's very interesting. And she seems very sweet, very intelligent. And I think she means well or meant well while releasing the photos. She did say multiple times in the book that Linda said it'd be all right to take photos and that she'd asked Elvis a couple different times about taking photos and he was fine. Now, that being said, he wasn't there when these photos were taken. Did Jeannie have in mind later on, or is it just one of those memories to take home or to show her friends and family that she was going to write a book? Let me know what you think about that, and then we will move forward.
No, if you were sitting, there was one right in front of it, great big RCA, and matter of fact, probably one of the ones that he shot.
Uh-huh.
If he didn't like somebody on the TV, we all know that he shot the TVs out.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the room was so small, it really wasn't that far away from the bed,
mm-hmm.
And it was huge. And of course downstairs they had one of those big screen TVs, that's similar to what we have now, but it was like on a projection screen.
Right.
I think.
Right, in the jungle room.
Upstairs was like a big RCA Victor type
mm-hmm.
thing. So we mostly watched TV on that, But it was very comfortable, and if you know.
Was it cold?
It was always cold. Yeah, it was always cold because he liked it cold, and it was always dark because he couldn't sleep any other way. I mean, we all know that when he stayed at the Baptist Hospital, he had to have them put aluminum foil, in the windows because he couldn't stand the light, and because he had sensitive eyes, and so that's why. But I mean, the upstairs, like I said, is just. It's so intriguing to everyone. I mean, everyone is just fascinated by these pictures.
Right.
And the fans went crazy when I had a website back in 2002, which I took down because I started to do the book because I got all this support and encouragement. They said, you've got to have these pictures available to the fans because they really want to see this.
Very much.
And I'm sure some people are sensitive, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that if you had any.
This is definitely something I was talking about.
Yeah, some people are sensitive, but some people, like I said, they think, okay, now it's just another bedroom. Well, remember, this is a human being.
Right.
Granted, and it's an extraordinary human being. It's the entertainer of the century. But he still was a human being, and Elvis did know about it, and nobody's got any right to say that Elvis wouldn't want this or like this. I mean, how do they know? First of all, Elvis's sense of humor was hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like there's anything dirty going on. Everything was as innocent as could be. I mean, I've got rollers in my hair, for goodness sake, sleeping in the bed during a sleepover with her cousins. I mean, my God.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans, some of them are obsessed with these pictures.
Yeah.
People, like
they get angry? I mean, some actually get angry? Do some of them get angry?
Yeah, I've had some emails from people that are, but I know some people that have written books, that don't know Elvis very well, or even that maybe did know him, pretty well, but not maybe as well as I did or someone else. They get knocked because they see, and they were all just trying to make money.
Right.
I hate to say this, but the main reason I did this is for the fans. I mean, obviously, everybody probably makes money on a book, but what I'm saying is this book that I put together, this collector's edition. There's two books that actually Rooftop Publishing put together for me. They have a black and white paperback 6x9 edition with 30 pictures, but they did an 8.5 by 11 hardcover collector's edition.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It's just that. It's this.
I like this interview very much, but this is definitely an advertising, which is fine, an advertising for Jeannie's book. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Sometimes, we wish that some deeper, harder questions would be asked by those that interview celebrities or people that were around celebrities, but I can understand why the interviewer took the path that he took on this.
Here, and like I said, all of the pictures of the upstairs, and the fans have gone nuts over this. I've gotten more positive response than negative, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact of the matter is, you never. I mean, look at the criticism that Elvis got. When he first came out. I mean, there was a lot of people against his style, his hair, his clothing, everything. I mean, you can't let all of that bother you,
mm-hmm.
And I don't have a website up anymore. People, people are funny. They've got to realize that, once you do anything like that, it's always available if you go into a search. But it's not up and running per se. I don't have any pictures available, so I mean that's why I did the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's available obviously through rooftoppublishing.com. It's available at Barnes and Nobles and other locations.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Amazon too, Amazon.com. But I basically think that the majority of the fans are very, very pleased and happy about that.
Are there more pictures in the second book than in the... Now, I have a colored version here, paperback. Now, in the collectors, is there more photos in there?
Yes. You have the initial one that was done. I actually self-published that one. It had 30 pictures. It was paperback, but it was 8.5 by 11.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that you have?
Yeah.
Yes. And so this new one is a hardcover, and it's got 70 colored pictures.
Wow.
It's beautiful how they put it together almost like a scrapbook. It's got little black tabs on the pictures, so it looks like a scrapbook. It's beautiful. They did a beautiful job.
Wow.
And so, I really think that the fans are going to be very, very happy with it.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
It's like, the story, it's the same story, and a friend of mine said it reads like a fairy tale, because, I mean, it was just a girl from Rhode Island that gets
mm-hmm.
this incredible experience, so to me, it's a fairy tale come true.
Yeah, if I didn't know you, I wouldn't believe it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know how many people all these years that I have to whip out my pictures to prove it, because people will say, "Oh, she worked for Elvis," and they'll go, "Yeah, right."
Yeah.
And so I've been wearing my ring a lot lately, because a lot of times I don't wear it.
Oh, you gotta tell the listeners how you got your ring.
Oh yeah, it's a good story. But before I even mention that, I want to mention Jim Cox, because Jim Cox is my co-writer, and he was an Elvis fan, is an Elvis fan,
uh-huh.
and he was co-writing Nancy Rook's The Maid's book, Inside Graceland. And so he contacted me and wanted to know if I wanted to get involved in their book, and so I told him that I was going to write my own. And then, when I asked him if he wanted to co-write my book, he said as soon as he got through with Nancy's, he'd be more than happy. And he did such a wonderful job putting this together, capturing my personality. I can't even tell you, because we talked on the phone, and and we also, we emailed each other, and I said to him,
You become friends.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
I've interviewed both Nancy Rooks and Jim Cox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he told me that. So that's why, I was more than happy to do this with you.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this is a great experience. But let me tell you the ring story.
Okay.
It basically happened on tour.
This makes me kind of think that this was before the book came out, or maybe as the book was about to come out, because we've read the ring story. This is part of her book. And it's a sweet story, and it's a nice story. And, of course, anybody that gets a ring from Elvis has to feel very special, because those were not cheap rings.
On August the 29th, in Atlanta, and Linda called me from my room, and she said, come on down to the suite. So I go inside the living room section, and Linda comes out and says, come on in here for a minute. So I go into the bedroom area, and Elvis kind of walked up to the door to greet me, and he had on a blue robe, and then I saw his jeweler Lowell Hayes with a big case sitting on a chair, and Linda was sitting on the bed, and Joe Esposito was sitting in the other chair. And so Elvis just hands me this little white box with my name on it, and he says, honey, I want you to have this. And I said, for what? I said, I didn't do anything. And he said, no, I want you to have this for being a good friend to Linda. And he said, come on over here and sit down and open up the box. So I went over and sat down, and I'm shaking. I mean, I knew it was a ring box because, I know my jewelry. So I opened it up, and there was this green velvet box, and I knew that was definitely a ring box. And then I opened it and saw this 3.5 carat cross. Well, I didn't know it was shaped like a cross at the time, but this, clustered diamond ring.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't believe how big it was. And I just, looked at it, closed the box, and started bawling.
Uh-huh.
My head off, And he has the most adorable, crooked grin. The joy on his face when, he saw my face, I can't even tell you. So he said, calm down. He says, I want to put it on your finger. Okay. He says first he said, you notice it's shaped like a cross. And I said, oh my God, it is, isn't it? And so he went to put it on my finger, and it got stuck because it wasn't sized for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, wait a minute, and I just took a little saliva from my mouth and wet my finger, and it slid right on. And I just looked at it and looked at him and looked at it and looked at him and just grabbed him around the neck and kissed him and thanked him. And like I said, you had to see the joy on his face after I got that ring. I can't even begin to describe. So we all felt like we were engaged to Elvis because he gave away about 15 rings that day.
Really?
And except mine was the prettiest, I have to say, except for Linda's. Linda got about 4 rings. I mean, astronomical jewels. I can't even begin to describe. But mine, years later, he said to me at Graceland, we were around the dining room, and grabs my hand. He said, honey, did I give you that ring? And I said, no, the tooth fairy did. He said, of course you did. And he said, well, that's the daintiest mother I ever gave to anybody. Because it is. It's a very beautiful shaped ring, and even though it's astronomical in size, it's just beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I guess dainty in his eyes. But, of course, anything's dainty to Elvis because he was so flamboyant.
Yeah.
And he loved everything bigger than life.
Yeah. Did you get a TLC, too?
No, I didn't get a TLC. He went crazy with those TLCs prior to me working there. And believe
That's interesting. That's something that we didn't really think about. Usually Elvis's rings were very expensive, but I believe that he did have his jeweler bring some less expensive rings that were still expensive enough, but they weren't $10,000 rings at that point in time for friends like this.
This ring was far greater than any TLC I could have wanted because, first of all, diamonds, oh my God, and the fact that it's shaped like a cross and you put it on my finger.
Oh, I bet you it's very beautiful.
Yeah, and I got a car. You want to hear the car story?
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, yeah, go ahead. I love the car story.
The car story is adorable because it really shows how humble this man was. This is when he was going crazy buying all the Pontiacs at the time at the dealership, and so I was there at Graceland. He says, "Come on, honey, we're all going for a ride." Okay, so it was Linda and him in the front seat. I was in the back seat with one of the bodyguards, and I can't remember who. And he says to me, he's driving, and he said, "Honey, I'm going to buy you this car," and he said, "It's a little bit different, but you're going to have to drive it." And I looked at Linda, and I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? And I went, what? And, I'm like, no way. And I said, well, what are you talking about? So we get to the dealership. He said, no. He says, where do we get there? Where do we get there? So we get to the dealership, and, he had this beautiful, like, chamois leather outfit on with all rhinestones all over it, and he was in the most excitable mood you could ever imagine. He was high. He was definitely high.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't half asleep that day. So he said, hey, you over there or something. He said, can you bring that car over there for this young lady I'm buying it for? And my mouth dropped because it was yellow with a leopard top.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? And he said, well, I know you like leopard and all that. So Linda's laughing because she must have told him, and all this. And so, but it was a stick shift, okay? And I didn't know how to drive, a stick shift. And so he said, oh, it's easy. He said, I'll show you. So he gets in the car, and Linda's in the middle, and I'm at the end. And he's saying, now see how you drive it, and this, that. Of course, I didn't know what he was talking about. And so he said, and honey, he said, notice it sounds like a jet plane. He said, listen to that engine. So all these people that are in the other cars are looking at this car. First of all, it's very noticeable, yellow with a leopard top. Second of all, you got Elvis Presley driving it. Okay? So everybody is staring, and he says to me, and he says, honey, he says, look at everybody looking at your new car. Isn't this something? And I looked at him and said, Elvis, did you ever stop and think they could be looking at you? And he just went very humbly, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. It was just absolutely adorable. And I said, I just love this guy for that.
Yeah.
Because he 1 minute he could be like, gee, I'm the most handsome man in the world. It's a joke. He'd say, if there was a beauty contest for men, I'd win it. And stuff like that. And then he'd say something like that.
Yeah.
He was adorable.
Yeah. Did he have a temper?
Really was.
Did he have a temper at times?
Oh, yes. Everyone knows the famous temper. And I'll tell you the little story. I witnessed him shooting the Pantera. And
did you?
Yes, I did. It didn't start. And he got mad and, stood up. He got out of the car and took out his gun and shot it. And I thought I was going to run for the hills. I didn't know what to do. And so that was quite an experience. And, of course, I guess they fixed it. And I think he did it again. I mean...
And to this day, it still has a hole in the steering wheel from the bullet.
Oh, I bet it does.
It does, yeah. I've got pictures of it on my site, Elvis2001.net.
Do you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
so it's funny when you said about the Pantera, yeah.
I was definitely there, absolutely.
Can you tell me about Christmas?
Like I said,
I'm sorry.
When he did things like that, he would, it would scare you because you didn't know what you were dealing with. And, of course, I was there when he, had a little bit of another tantrum, if you want to call it that. But he was mad at the bodyguards because, there was a little bit of a kind of a match with him and one of the fans in Vegas. Because he threw her a scarf, and she threw it back, and then he threw it back, and they went back and forth, and the bodyguards didn't break it up, and I think he was mad at them for that.
She didn't want the scarf?
She didn't want it. She was either playing games, Joe, or just trying to get attention.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know, what happened, but all I know is that Bob Hope was in the suite that night. And nothing was said about that. I got to meet Bob, he was the greatest as far as he was my favorite comedian, and I wanted to say thanks for the memories or something, and I couldn't speak. And here I was in Elvis Presley suite, and I'm intrigued by Bob Hope. But anyway, it's because, he was like 70 years old, and I just respected the man. He was a wonderful man. So after he left, I was in Linda's bathroom, and Linda was showing me the hole that where Elvis was having gun practice in the suite like a year before or something, and she said, see the hole there above the toilet tape dispenser? And I said, yeah. And she said that Elvis, was having target practice, and that's where the bullet went through, and if I had been standing there, I would have been killed.
So it was really close.
Yeah. So, she tells this story quite a bit. So she knows somebody tells you the story, and Elvis comes into the suite yelling at the guys and cussing them all out and firing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was petrified when I heard him, so angry, and I said, "Get me the hell out of here," because I didn't know if he was going to start, whipping out the gun, and I just wanted out.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda's laughing because she knew that he wasn't going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She said no. She said she just thought that I was funny because I was so afraid, and she was used to this by now.
And this was all over the person who didn't want the scarf?
Yes.
But why would he be, I'm trying to understand, why would he be upset at the bodyguards, though?
I think because he wanted them, to break it up.
Oh.
And they didn't, because I think he was embarrassed. I mean, let's face it, here's a fan that doesn't want the scarves, and how many people would kill for one of these scarves? I mean, he basically, at the end, threw it back at her, and she kept it.
Uh-huh.
But it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think I was embarrassed for him. So I think he expected the bodyguards to break it up, but the bodyguards, why would they break it up? Because they thought maybe he was playing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But Elvis had pride, and he didn't like it,
mm-hmm.
and that's what happened. But anyway, he forgave and forgotten the whole thing. Shortly after that, hired everybody back.
He did that a lot, didn't he? He would fire people and then
fire him, hire him. Yep, he fired everybody, all of us.
all the time.
He fired Linda. He fired all of us. Not me, but I quit.
Hey, can you tell me about the Christmas at Graceland?
Oh God, yeah, I'll tell you.
And let me ask you something. Christmas at Graceland, I know he decorated the outside. Everybody knows because they still do it. Did he decorate the inside just as much?
Oh yeah, the big Christmas tree and very, very ornate. Yeah, but I believe he had the same decorations for years outside. Somebody, my sister and my mother even gave me a nativity type Graceland scene, and it's the same. It's the same decorations he always had. But yeah, I think he would change them somewhat inside. That kind of thing. But so anyway, this was 1973. Linda called me up and said, how would you like to spend Christmas at Graceland?
And you said no.
And of course I said no. Why would I? You think I'm crazy? Why would I want to go there? So I flew there with bells on, believe me. And but one of the cute stories was when I'll tell you this was when he was putting Lisa to bed, and he said, come on upstairs. I had been taking care of Lisa during the day and all that, and he said, come on, Jeannie, come on upstairs. And so it was Linda, Lisa, and me and Elvis, and so he started to sing her a little lullaby. And don't even ask me what the lullaby was. I have no idea.
Oh, what a moment that must have been.
Can you imagine that scene? I mean, just picture it, Joe.
Yeah.
Here is Elvis, with, I told this, I always say this to Jim Cox. He always says, you must have just, said, oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
I am here. It's like a Norman Rockwell painting, and he's singing to his little girl, 5 years old.
Wow. And,
of course, I got to have Lisa Marie pose on her bed. That was her Christmas gift, that hamburger-type cot, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And what a bed. I mean, I got to sleep in it myself when I was sick. When Lisa wasn't there, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I understand how some folks might kind of, I don't want to say cringe, but this is definitely somebody that's very proud that she got to be in Graceland, and she was part of Elvis's life. She chose not to be part of his life forever, leaving the job and stuff. But she had to have her own life, right? But I think it's pretty cool. I'm glad personally that we have the photos we have, and I don't cringe when I hear that, but I can understand some people would. Pictures of Lisa Marie in her bed, things like that. I think Lisa would have been very happy and was very happy that she had those photos of her, and she wouldn't have had those specific photos unless Jeannie hadn't taken them. And, of course, unless Linda hadn't been in her life, because you know, yeah, she was treated very special by Elvis, but it was, and of course, I'm sure some other folks around Graceland, but it was very important to have a mother figure. And Linda was a mother figure, and to some extent, Jeannie acted like a mother figure to Lisa as well. And that perhaps led to her being a better mother than she would have been if she had just had Priscilla destroying her childhood. Um, with leaving her with nannies and leaving with her with Michael Edwards and all the other stuff that we know now. TCB TLC, this is Rare Elvis Photos. Join me for more.